Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Little Frenchie in Big Texas. I am Anne and in this video I want to bring to you the latest news from the old continent, and here we're talking about France, my home country, given we had our Prime Minister Jean Castex today that made a speech about new restrictions and measures regarding the COVID pandemic. It's actually pretty funny right now because it used to be the president doing this speech, but given he's running for re-election next year, he doesn't want to do it anymore, so he's pushing it to the prime minister to deliver the bad news, and he keeps the speech more, lighter and more, for his re-election pretty much. So, but here it was interesting, and the situation in Europe is, at least in France, the country is really riding the fifth wave with Delta, which is the Delta strain, which is the majority of the cases right now, with the beginning of the Omicron variant. Different from the UK, where Omicron is really rising very fast. They're talking exponential growth of the Omicron variant. I heard number going from 3% to 6% of the population in just a few days. So it's going very fast. But all what I heard, they all agree on the fact that it's a lot more contagious, but they do not know yet the effects, whether it's worse or not than the Delta variant. So it's just more contagious, but that is it. But bearing that in mind, the fact that we have an increase in cases, more at the hospital as well, and as I shared with you a few weeks ago, there are actually a lot of vaccinated people at the hospital as well. More vaccinated than unvaccinated in absolute value. But if you put it as a percentage of the overall vaccinated population, given you have over 80%, especially if you look at adults, I think the number is extremely high in France of vaccinated people. It's a small percentage compared to the unvax, where you have people, but given you only have a few millions not vaccinated, then it's going to be a higher percentage of that part of the population. So you can pretty much, it's numbers, you can make them say what you want them to say here. But that is the situation here. The fifth wave, increase of cases at the hospital, and also some cases at the schools, and the schools closing before the vacation. So it's just a week or two of closing and then going on to the vacation. But what the government wants to prevent here is an increase of cases in January following the vacation. So there are two measures here, short term and more long term, which are a lot more worrying. Short term, they did not impose a restriction in terms of gathering, just common sense, the less people, the best, open the windows and so on, even so it's pretty cold outside. And closing of the nightclubs, no firework gathering. All these big gatherings are canceled for sure. But otherwise, you don't have restrictions like no more than 6 people around the table, and no, not this year. So a bit, but not too much here, short term. Long term, it's very interesting. So France had what they called a sanitary pass, which was needed to do anything fun, pretty much. So you could still, without the pass, you could still go grocery shopping, you could go to the pharmacy, and you could go to work. But anything else, like going to the movies, restaurants, cafe, traveling, train, plane, you need to show that pass, sanitary pass. Or you could do a test. 72 hours in advance, which now is reduced to 24 hours. Was reduced to 24 hours because right now they're renaming the pass. It's no longer a sanitary pass, it's a vaccine pass, meaning there is no other option. It's you have the vaccine or you don't. No more tests. So if you don't have it, forget anything fun. You can still shop for food, that's important, still go to the pharmacy, and you can still go to work. But that's it, pretty much. So a lot more restriction on the unvaccinated imposed here, and that was clearly said during the speech. But what shocked me in the speech is the way it was said. So I took some notes, and I'm going to try my best to translate word for word what he said toward the end of the speech. But the way it was said for me was very shocking. So what he said is that the few millions French that refuse to take the vax are putting at risk the life of the whole country. you hear me, huh? The life of the whole country and burden, arm, the daily life of an immense majority of French that agreed to play the game. He used this word, to play the game. Isn't it interesting? I mean, the whole sentence, putting it on the unvaxxed to put the life of everybody at risk, where honestly, if you're unvaxxed and you're sick, it's going to show, and that's pretty easy. But if you're vaxxed, you can still transmit. It doesn't make any sense at all what he said. But it's clearly orientating the population who is vaxxed toward the unvaxxed to really split that population even more. It was really shocking to me when I heard that. And the words, I mean, play the game. Wow, that's a lot of meaning in there. And then he mentions about the ICU being full, mainly with the unvaxxed, which, as I said, it's a number, so you can make the numbers say what you want. But if you look at it in absolute value, this is not true. You have more vaccinated people. That was in the newspapers 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Maybe the numbers have changed right now, but I seriously doubt it, given the vast majority of the population is vaccinated. So despite a very high population that's vaccinated, you still have an increase of cases, increase in the hospital, emergency plans, and so on. And putting all these restrictions and all the guilt, that's the thing, they're putting the guilt on the unvaccinated. And it's just a few millions. He mentions it. I mean, it's negligible right now in the population. Another thing that's interesting is in the past, France had not agreed on the vaccine for the young children, you know, the 5 to 11 or 5 to 12 age range. Well, they just approved it. It went to an ethics committee and it just got approved. So that's supposed to also solve the issue of the cases at the schools. It's interesting. It was, to me, it was very shocking the way it was phrased. So I wanted to share that with you. It kind of explains as well on how, I mean, people just listening to these speeches over and over again and being told you're doing the right thing. You know, you got the vax, you're playing the game, you're doing your part, you're a good dude. But the ones over there, even so you just got a few, that's their fault. If you cannot go out, you cannot go to the nightclub, we cannot do all this, that's their fault. You're the good dude, huh? But they're not. It's whoo. I was shocked. But I heard very similar speeches even from the population, especially in a country like Austria. You can hear some very extreme speech as well, and coming from the vaccinated. So it's yeah, I call it brainwashing, but I'm hoping some people open their eyes and actually see. Dangerous world we're living in. Just wanted to share because more restrictions are coming in. I heard some bills being introduced in New York State as well. It's slowly coming in. Was in Canada. Clearly Canada is leading here, but it's going over the border. So just be prepared. And thank you all for watching.
À la vaccination. Parce qu'il n'est pas admissible que le refus de quelques millions de Français de se faire vacciner mette en risque la vie de tout un pays et entame le quotidien d'une immense majorité de Français qui a joué le jeu depuis le début de cette crise.